Are we looking at the Eye of Horus?
Environment. Normally, we don't get this, a timeline survey from a single study, but they did it here throughout the entire timeline available to the researchers. And so, instead of the normal 12,000 year cycle chart, let's go back through the last few half-cycle events. As most viewers know, the process has begun once again here on Earth. We see it on Earth, the other planets, and beyond. The last several 6,000 year cycles are well known along with their Heinrich events. In fact, going back all the way to about 50,000 years ago, only that H3 event half-cycle doesn't carry an official name to the magnetic change.
We're going to show a map of a gene map of different haplogroups and the migration routes, and this has been mapped using the mitochondrial clock, which is based on how quick the DNA mutations, etc., occur. That is, of course, partly speculative, but it gives us a distribution of these haplogroups, genetic groups. The thing that interests us are the group here in the Middle East, which seems to be a gene pool, and the one here, which is called Y Adam, which is out of Africa and which seems to be the most ancient. And we're going to have a closer look at them. Now, this gene pool here, we can see that the line changes from blue, which is 50 to 25,000 years ago, to red, which is 25 to 10, to brown, which is 10 to 1,000, which ends up in Africa, in the region of Ethiopia. We find the same if we follow this line here, from blue to red to brown, and it all comes very close to this area where Y Adam is the most ancient, is supposed to have originated from, which is again very close to the region where we find this Eye of Richat that we've just heard about. Now, there's a couple of things to remember in this, and that's firstly that I believe that these routes are probably going back and forth both ways. With cyclical destructions and catastrophes, people will be moving back and forth from one area to the other and then back again. And as well as that, how accurate is this mitochondrial clock that counts the mutations? Surely there will be times of accelerated mutation, especially if we're dealing with cosmic radiation. The other thing is that the time periods here seem to fit, the ones that they have chosen seem to fit a 12,000 year cycle. This is 10,000 years, and if we double that up, we get to about 24,000 years, and then this is 4 cycles. So this ties in with the destructive cycles that we've been looking at.
Just as Mesopotamia was watered by 2 great rivers, its lands were also populated by 2 great peoples. These were the people of Sumer and the people of Akkad. Over the course of their history, the Sumerians and the Akkadians grew together in such a symbiotic way that it's impossible to tell the story of one without the other. We know a decent amount about the Akkadian people in the north. They spoke a language in the Semitic family, meaning that it's in the same language family as the Aramaic of the Bible, and later Hebrew and Arabic. This language seems to have been indigenous to the region, and it shares grammar and words with many other languages that surrounded it. But the Sumerian people are much more mysterious. In fact, they are such a mystery that they have caused archaeologists to refer to what's called the Sumerian problem. Sumerians spoke what we call a language isolate. That is, it has no relation to any of the languages around it, and it's essentially in a language family all of its own. Sumerian was so alien to the region that early scholars who discovered its first texts didn't believe it could be a real language at all. They thought it must have been a kind of code used to communicate in secret. This alone has led some historians to ask whether the Sumerians may have arrived in southern Iraq from somewhere else. The Sumerian culture centered on the sea coast of Iraq's far south, and so some have suggested that they may have arrived by boat. Some backing for this theory may come in the writings of Roman historian Flavius Josephus, who wrote down a Babylonian legend that he heard in the 1st century AD. It relates the story of a half-man, half-fish called Oannes, who walked out of the sea and taught the people of Mesopotamia the secrets of culture.
He brought them the knowledge of letters, sciences, and all kinds of techniques. He also taught them how to found cities, build temples, create laws and measure plots of land. He revealed to them how to work the land and gather fruits.
After teaching mankind all these secrets, Oannes leaps back into the sea and swims away. It's possible that in this myth, ancient storytellers have preserved some memory of the arrival of the Sumerians, landing en masse by boat, and bringing with them their advanced urban culture.
Entering into the grand solar minimum, which means less sunspots, which means it's going to get colder and the grow zones on Earth are going to change. This is where we are now. We're heading into a colder period, just like the mini ice age at the Maunder minimum. You can see we're dipping into this colder time now.
Focus on the Sahel region of Africa.
About Africa. This is not a typical place for NATO. We are very committed to NATO in other places, but Africa is a place where we need to be able to act as Europeans.
For example, one of the things that my institute does is work in Africa, and at the moment we're particularly focused on the Sahel group of countries. That's that band of countries across the north part of sub-Saharan Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Have you seen the floods in Chad? And if you know there's a massive aquifer right under that same area, the Great Reset, notice the front cover here on Time magazine, the Sahel. Could be a new food growing area the globalists are planning. Above ground and below ground water resources Notice how many aquifers there are across North Africa with the increasing rainfall. Same Time magazine article mentions severe drought wiping out U.S. crops, planetary alignments of 2023 and 2024 that we haven't seen since 79 AD. And West African monsoons shift along with intertropical convergence zones, definitely new rain patterns setting up in the grand solar minimum. This is going to be a vast reservoir, 800 square miles rendition of what it will look like, turning desert into lakes. The offers are out from almost every superpower. This is such a pivotal project. Feast your eyes on this. Ethiopia, Grand Renaissance Dam.